Hi, welcome to Sandy Says. My name is Sandy Dimiterchik. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Schizophrenia and Psychosis Action Alliance, a nonprofit organization that provides free support groups for people diagnosed with schizophrenia-related disorders called SA or Schizophrenia Alliance, and for families and friends called Families for Care or FFC. Today we are covering the topic of homelessness. I will be interviewing Anthony Brown, author of From Park Bench to Park Avenue, One Man's Journey Out of Homelessness, and Pat Morgan, award-winning author of Concrete Killing Fields, One Woman's Battle to Break the Cycle of Homelessness, and the book We Hardly Knew Them. Let's start with Anthony Brown, author of From Park Bench to Park Avenue, One Man's Journey Out of Homelessness. I understand that you're also on the board of directors at S&PAA, and you are the founder and director of Coordinating and Assisting Recovery Environments, or CARE, located in Anaheim, California. I was really amazed by all that you have overcome, including a BS in nursing and getting your license to be a nurse in the state of California. Please introduce yourself, Anthony.
Hi, my name is Anthony Brown, and I am the author of From Park Bench to Park Avenue, and I am happy to be here. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you. In your book, you describe homelessness even as a child. I was reminded of my deceased grandfather who used to ride trains during the summers in high school because his family didn't have enough money to feed him. His turning point was joining the army. What would you say was your turning point from homelessness?
I was homeless from the age of 14 to 37, and I just got tired. I mean, nothing was working, and I got arrested several times in and out of prison. And finally, the same police officer that arrested me asked me one day if I wanted some help. And it's really ironic because I didn't think I needed help. But when he said it, and I guess I was just done, then that's when I said, yes, I'll take some help. And that started the ball rolling to where I'm at today.
That's wonderful. I relate to how a STEP program changed your life. For me specifically, it was the 6 steps of recovery through the essay meetings. You describe how the 12-step program helped you and changed your life along with the people who were leaders in that program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the 12 steps program is really interesting because technically it's supposed to be anonymous. And so
Oh,
um,
sorry.
that's okay. But I enjoy the principles of what they're capable of doing. One of the things about the leaders or the participants there is they not only taught me the steps or how to use them, but they were examples that it did work. And I like what I saw, so I did what they did. And I learned basically in a nutshell how to uncover, discover, and discard. And by working those principles, I was able to have a relationship with a higher power who I choose to call God. That's my best friend. And so I've learned quite a bit of things from working those steps, different tools, just all kinds of ways of taking care of some of my ill thinking and having relationships with other people, all of those things combined is what I think is really good for, those steps.
I know you had a hard childhood, but it sounds like you're able to view your mother as a role model who also was a nurse. How did that relationship help you?
It evolved over time because, like I said, I ran away from home at 14. And so our relationship wasn't really that great. But as I grew older, I come to realize that the way she responded to my behavior as a youth was she was only utilizing the tools that she had learned. And one thing that my mother, and because she's been through a bunch of trauma, but she made it through. In my book, I lay out how when I was 9 years old, we found that she had got shot in the head, and she survived and strived and became a nurse. And so, what that's shown me, or what she's always instilled within me, is no matter what, you can make it, no matter what you're going through. And that allowed me to be this individual that could actually exist or live from such a young age out in the streets until today.
And how were you able to overcome your addictions?
Addictions, the 12 steps is one. My relationship with God is another. Um, Learning to get rid of as many stressors as possible and in the beginning, stay out of areas that can be a trigger. You know, there's a saying, if you hang out in a barbershop, you're going to get a haircut. There's no sense of me saying I'm going to quit drinking and then go to a bar to watch a football game. And so doing that and then practicing the steps, hanging out with like-minded people, that all helps me out a lot.
The STEP programs are often about giving back. How do you give back with your nonprofit organization, CARE? What are your goals for that organization?
Care, I developed Care as a independent. mm, we go in and we help different facilities. Like we go into psychiatric hospitals and do groups or lectures, workshops. We do it in substance abuse. And we also go and do medication education for hospitals and things like that. And so giving back in that way is one way. Another thing that we're recently doing is I purchased an abandoned 1916 mansion and we're converting, it's called Brown Manor, and we're converting it, and CARE is going to be responsible for writing a new program we're structuring to transition homeless people out of the street and back into the community.
I understand you are a member of the S&PAA Board of Directors. If you can say, what advocacy projects are you involved in and would you like to accomplish with the nonprofit?
um, the projects that I'm involved in, not regarding the S S&PAA. I work with right now an alternative sentencing program that's helping individuals that did a substantial amount of time in prison transition back into the community. My thing in life, I want to help everybody. That's how come I'm a nurse and all that, but particularly the homeless population because I know what that's about. I eat, sleep, and breathe homeless for a long time. And now, since I have a medical career and some psychological background and some group therapy, I just want to get out there and create stuff for them. I know I'm currently going to school to be a nurse practitioner.
Hmm.
And when I get done, I want to go out in the streets and bring care to people out there. That's where my heart is. And so, as far as advocacy projects, then the next one I'm working on is another nonprofit in another state, and that's where my mind is.
Okay, can you talk about your experience of becoming a registered nurse and what you do as a nurse?
I'm a psychiatric nurse. I've been working in the field of mental health ever since 2001.
Mhm.
Um, and I love it. You know, I love seeing people come in at the low points of their life, whether they have some serious medical issues, definitely going through some different stages of psychosis, and just watching the medication works, watching some of the structure work, yeah, and then just seeing them evolve. And so I've got to the point I've been blessed to be a director of nursing, which allows me to implement different modalities to help people. And so that's what I do as a nurse, and I love it. I love it.
That's wonderful. I'm glad that you found your niche. I'm a certified career coach, and I have a theory that if you can find your niche, doors will open, miracles will happen, everything will hopefully fall into place for you. And it
Well,
sounds
thank you.
like it has for you. Okay, so we also have Pat Morgan to be interviewed. Pat has written the award-winning book, The Concrete Killing Fields, One Woman's Battle to Break the Cycle of Homelessness. She also has written an award-winning recent book, We Hardly Knew Them. She has worked to stop homelessness on the local, state, and federal level. Please introduce yourself, Pat.
Good morning. I'm Pat Morgan. Um, I'm very grateful for this, but I'm also very blown away by what Anthony was saying. Okay. I'm very old. I'm 83. I've been doing this for almost 40 years. And so I got into it simply by showing up at my church one day. And from that day forward, I was hooked. And my whole life has revolved around homeless people and homelessness and how to fix it ever since then. I was a banker and a real estate broker, former politician. Actually, I still work in politics a little bit. And I just chucked all that aside. And it changed my life. It changed my life. One of the things that's most important is that I realized somewhere in the middle of writing the concrete killing fields and writing about their lives, I realized how much they had changed my life. They had given it meaning and purpose and relieved some of the guilt that I had from growing up in a segregated town for my first 30 years. And then I broke loose, and then when I found all these homeless people out there, and the vast majority were African American, and I was just hooked, and still am.
Thank you. Your book, The Concrete Killing Fields, was deeply moving. I'm a certified peer support specialist trained to share my lived experience to help other people with mental health issues live a good quality of life. I've heard my profession referred to as the torch carriers. Through your writings, especially the parts about the specific homeless people, you seem to carry the torch for their lives so that they are not forgotten. What is your opinion of your purpose behind sharing these stories?
I want people to understand what's happening out there the way I do. And I'm carrying the torch, but I'm also looking for someone to pick up that torch. So I'm especially belligerent these days in trying to get people to listen. It is so unfair, and it has been so unfair for so long. It's just a crime against people. People, African Americans finally got the right to vote. They finally got to be real people. And the majority of the folks that I've seen in homelessness, and including the mentally ill ones, are African Americans. They're Black people. And it's like the system doesn't care. The system doesn't care. And I want them to care enough to do something about it. And frankly, the best thing they could do about it would be to repeal the IMD exclusion, which prevents people aged 22 to 64, the years when they are most likely to need mental health treatment, mental illness, from using their Medicaid to pay for treatment in a state institution of mental disease, aka a state hospital. So all those folks who should have gotten treatment for over all these years, that was in 1965. We had 500,000 beds then, and we have fewer than 40,000 today. And the jails are full of them. And it's just unconscionable. So yeah, I'm carrying a torch. I might light somebody up with one.
I also am a certified career coach. I think I just mentioned that about my theory that if a person can find their niche, doors will open and the person will find a place in the world. After reading your career journey, it sounds like you were guided along the way by being true to who you are and how you could help the world. Do you think advocating for the homeless is your niche?
It absolutely is. It is at this stage, simply because at my age, with all the COVID and all that kind of stuff, I can't go back on the streets with them. I mean, and I just gave that up about a year ago. But doing street outreach to people, that was what really kept me going. Yeah, it just called me. It just called me, and I couldn't go. I didn't want to go back anywhere else. That and writing about them is what I live and breathe for.
You describe working for well-known political figures. You even ran and won local political offices. Did you ever think that this would be your life and journey? I like that you describe completing college as a non-traditional student. To me, that's inspiring as I'm in my 40s and working on a master's degree in academic advising. Do you have any suggestions?
Go for it. Go for it. It changed my life immeasurably, and I just lucked into it. I had been running the Calvary Street Ministry program, helped develop it and directed it for almost 5 years. And I was getting so frustrated with the lack of resources. We really were not able to make the changes with them that we really wanted or tried so hard to do. And then one day I was in my church and they had a little pamphlet on one of the tables about going back to college. They were looking for non-traditional students, which you would be, okay? So I called my priest and I said, I'm really interested in this. And I said, but I see that the deadline has passed. And he said, well, the deadline, we've just reopened it and you're exactly the kind of person we're looking for.
Mm.
So I went out to and did, it was, I guess, 3 years. The first year I did it part-time, and the second 2 years, I had 1 year of college in Arkansas State back, and they had to go dig my information up from a hole in the ground somewhere. I was a cheerleader there. That's how. I was ready to do something. All three of my sons were very happy that I was going back to college after I promised them not to go out for cheerleader. So, so I went back and it opened my life. And one of the coolest things that I think you'll appreciate is then I took a class in writing. And I went up to the professor after that and I said, you have made my day. And he said, how? And I said, you just taught me everything I need to know. And he said, what did I say? And he said, I told him, I said, you said, don't try to write like a great writer.
Mm.
Write what you see and think and feel, which is, he changed exactly what I'd been trying to do to what I needed to do. And then my mentor saw me through the political science. I changed my major 3 times and then realized that I wanted political science. But he took me under his wing, and toward the end, he submitted my name and a video he found about some work I'd done on the streets with homeless people. And Time Magazine wrote me up as one of 20 outstanding college juniors in America.
That's amazing.
In New York, gave us money. I said, showed us around with this Time Magazine. So then when I came back from that, he said, would you like to do a Washington semester at American University? And I said, sure. So he made a way. They moved over and let me get in. I got a scholarship for it, and I interned in Al Gore's office. And that set me up for when Bill Clinton ran, and I jumped over and on the campaign. Yes, my whole life changed, and I have lived out my dreams because I went back to college.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope you do it. I encourage you to do it.
Mm-hmm. What are your opinions now about breaking the cycle of homelessness? Have you thought of returning to graduate school, maybe in policy?
Well, at 83, pushing 84, I think I'll push on it. I don't think they want to see me again because I really just monopolized a lot of classes. But it's breaking the cycle is what I began telling them from the very beginning. It is not enough for us to just, I said, we cannot pull all these fish, these bodies out of the river that I call homelessness. Someone has to go upstream and see who's throwing the bodies in. So we've got to be talking about all of this at once. We've got to do prevention, but then we've also got to have all the services and treatment we need and housing. With both of them, it's housing. Nothing works to end homelessness without housing, but housing alone won't do it because the sickest ones won't go in it. It's a government plot, okay? They don't want to go in, okay? And so that's where we're going. We have to do more with housing, but all the housing in the world won't help if we don't take care of the ones who are too sick to know they're sick.
What suggestions do you have for the nonprofit I work for, S&PAA, about helping people with mental health issues overcome homelessness? What about the criminal justice system?
The criminal justice system has now become, the jails and prisons are now de facto mental institutions. And they need to be working with those folks. They need to be working with NACO. I've been after NACO for now 1.5 years, and I was very pleased. I kept pushing them to do stepping up and trying to get them to understand that if they lobbied and got the IMD exclusion repealed, then that would take the people out of their jails. Then they could use the money they're paying in the jails to keep them in jail to help do the housing. So that's the piece I would like them to connect to. I was excited to see that the person who was getting all my busy emails, trying to get them to do that, is now the director over at NAMI. So I'm hoping that they will pick up on that. They've always said it, but they haven't done enough to make it happen. So I would want to see them push on that and then go to the states. There's this stepping up program where they're working with counties all over. Counties have a lot of moxie when it comes to politics. County judge, county sheriff, those folks help get people elected. So if we could figure out how to get to them and move them on, it would vastly improve the outcome for what you all are doing, I think. But then that's my political.
What is your opinion of Section 8 housing and other low-income housing programs? From my experience, it's been by lottery where names are drawn. Do you think that is fair?
Nothing is fair when it comes to housing. Nothing really is fair, because what's fair to one group is unfair to another group. Okay, that's the reality. When I came back to Memphis from Washington, I started working with the director of public housing, and what they had to do, he had just taken over that job, and they had 5,000 people on their list. And there was no way, housing was there was so little public housing available that the only thing they could do was go to a lottery. And 15,000 people signed up for the first lottery. That's how much the need was. So I don't say that that's a bad thing. I think they need to change the way they use that's what used to be called the Section 8 program. They should concentrate more on people with disabilities, or in families with people who have disabilities and families with small children. I also think that they are, and I did a housing document for Hillary Clinton, President Bill Clinton, former president, had his secretary call me and ask me if I would do a housing document for what we thought was going to be Hillary's transition. So I did, and I'd be happy to send you a copy of that so you can see what's happening there, and you could pass it on to them. Of course, it never saw the light of day, but what happens is that only a third of people who actually qualify for housing assistance actually get it. 2/3 of them don't. So over here, you've got the people with disabilities, and you've got the people with children that need to grow up in a house where it's not totally overcrowded and the roaches are taking over. So we need to go with those who need it most. And the other part of that is, once you get it, you get to keep it. And I think for healthy people who are able to work, what is happening now, it has been for several years, they reach a point where they don't want to make any more money, because then they won't qualify for the housing. So I think they need to set a limit on it. So that's my sermon for the day on that.
And what is your opinion? I know you mentioned the IMD exclusion earlier, and can you talk about that? You discussed it, and we hardly knew them after sharing stories of people who were homeless.
I just shared part of it ahead of time because I'm that militant about it. But what it did is I called it how they became collateral damage. Since 1965, we've had the war between the states and the feds over who pays for treatment in state psychiatric hospitals. When they did the IMD exclusion, that took that away. They have a block grant, but when you look at the numbers that are on there, it's a pittance compared to what they should have been getting. But until we repeal that, nothing's going to happen. We can't get them in treatment. We can't get them in housing if we can't get them in treatment. If we got them in treatment, we could keep them out of jail. So all those pieces are there. It just absolutely has to happen. And then what I said with collateral damage, when you've got a war going, as we got the war between the states and the feds, there's, in any regular war, the people who get hurt because of that war, they're not the fighters in it, but they're the ones who get hurt. They're the civilians and the kids who get hurt with it. And you go back and you try to fix it. You try to go back and repair some of that. And that's what we need to do with all the people who have lost their lives, and the families are just losing they're frantic because they can't get their sons and daughters into treatment. We owe it to them. We owe it to them. They're collateral damage too.
Well, thank you both for answering my questions. Now I'd like to open the interview to any questions or comments you might have for each other.
Well, for him, I say I am blown away. And Anthony, I am blown away by what you've done. And I kept seeing you because I had one homeless guy and I kept trying to get him in. And I said, "How long have you been out here?" And he said, 14, since I was 14. And he had been out there 20 years. And it was just such a lifestyle for him. And we never really got him in because we couldn't get him out of that concrete killing fields. You know, the substance abuse thing was so strong. So my hat is off to you, and I'm just blown away by what you've accomplished, and you are still accomplished, and you're the kind of person we need. Because I
Well,
mean, they don't always want to listen to that little old white lady.
well, thank you, Pat. And you speak my language, and everything you said resonated. And I hope somewhere we can stay in contact because what you're capable of doing is what I'm aiming to do. I want, and I'm writing a new program that's in the end, the individual is going to be, for lack of a better term, self-sustaining, because that's what it's all about. Not just boosting your self-worth or self-esteem, but your self-concept. Who do you believe that you are will allow you to dictate what you become. And and I would love to get some ideas, tips, and pointers because I just, like I was sharing earlier, I just bought an abandoned mansion just for the homeless people, you know, and I found a lot of little towns around America that has all of this property and we have all of these homeless people. That doesn't make sense to me. And I know there's a way out because I did it. And so if I could somehow stay in contact with you and pick your brain, because you have sass, and I like that. I couldn't think of a therapeutic or medical term.
That's not what other people call it. You
But
think, will she ever shut up?
but and that's what we need because like you said, it's more than just housing, and I call it housing plus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and overcrowding people isn't going to be anything successful because I mean I've been out there in the streets and I'm still out there today. And when I get done with my nurse practitioner license, I want to call myself the ghetto practitioner because I want to get in there
Cool.
and deal with it. And it's one of these where it takes a village. I'm just one individual. I try to, and the reason why I'm even public about my life is I want people to see that it's worth it investing in the homeless population. You know, we're all somebody's son or, daughter's wife, relatives. I mean, and what's fascinating, I don't know about where you are, but I don't see little infants out there in the streets. I don't, you know, and because Child Protective Services jump in and deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you said, we have to go upstream and see what's causing this to occur. And when I was looking at how to structure my program, I look at it as, you know, it's different levels because homelessness isn't just a one size fit all thing. It's not like you're just homeless and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's various degrees. There's people sleeping on couches and there's people that's been out there 20, 30 years. And how do you approach that? Those sleeping on couches, like you say, those are the ones that's upstream. How do we prevent that from happening? And then how we lift those up that's been out there to come out. And so again, I'm honored to be in your presence. I am so honored, and I just want to be able to learn and absorb and do what I can. So,
We certainly learn from you.
okay. So yes, if I can get, that, and thank you, Sandy, for bringing us together. It's a blessing. It really is.
Well, thank y'all for your honesty and for your experience and everything that y'all do. I'll send an email to both of y'all as an introduction.
Great.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, thanks, Anthony and Pat, for joining me. Thanks for joining Sandy Says. Make sure you like our YouTube channel, Schizophrenia and Psychosis Action Alliance, so that you don't miss any interviews. Next month, we will talk more about the IMD exclusion and housing. Thank
Yes.
you.